and stuff. Yes, you can do that. I know. For an hour and a half. Yeah.
Don't worry, one more room tomorrow.
They were good in trial.
Yeah. I would expect it. I think it's a big story.
Got my answer.
Yeah. You gotta just hope that they do.
I think it's a cut yesterday.
Oh, I haven't given that to them. Or they've already signed it.
I understand.
Didn't you have one for Georgia signed tape? Okay. Well, there's no rush.
Can't control this.
These are excellent.
I understand.
There is a huge trial.
Yeah.
All right, court is back in session.
Everyone can be seated. So at this point, we are going to need the reserve chairs for
Oh, yeah.
the 21.
You bet. Thank you.
You okay?
You can be seated.
I hear you. No, I get it. I'm not saying it.
Is Ms. Kappelman back yet?
Sir, she should be back in a second.
Okay.
I understand.
while we're getting set for the group for Dyer, let's go ahead and address one issue that I've just thought of. The indictment has not been read yet to the prospective jurors. Did the state or defense wish for the court to read that now that we've reached this stage of the process?
Yes, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor.
Very well. As to the wording of the indictment, does the defense have any objection as to the wording within it?
No, Your Honor.
Then it will be read in full.
Talk out. I have to right now. You're making me nervous.
Yes. You can bring her up. You can come right here. I've reviewed your note on this. Really.
No, but that may be true. We have any time? We have time. No, I. Hold on.
What's the name of that deli downtown? Yes.
No, I'm not sure. I don't know. Assume it is. Turn it off. Not my job, right?
Before the jury is brought in,
Yes, sir.
not going to mention the name. Would you, I know Your Honor's been very careful to do this so far. Would you just put even a heavier emphasis on the admonition not to post on social media? There's one prospective juror, juror number 19, who made a post today, I'm sorry, 119, who made a post today. It's a fairly innocuous post, taking what the kids call a selfie, at least my kids, you know, and commenting about doing their civic duty. I've seen that slide downhill real quick when someone gets comfortable posting about jury service. So the court, and hopefully that's the worst of it. Yeah. Can you please show Georgia the post?
All right, we'll settle this and then they can be brought in. State, do you have anything to add concerning this?
No, Your Honor.
All right, I will instruct the prospective jurors as requested. Please bring them in.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Pretty accurate. Pretty innocuous.
But it's just carried away. It tells me that those
Right.
consuming shows.
Yeah. And there, you
You want to see what I wrote about her?
nope, I trust you.
Right, okay, and they show you anyway. Look. Happy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Take one, pass it. Need two more. Thank you, sir.
That's fine. We're going to go without them. If the clerk could read the numbers as to the combined panels of who will not be present this afternoon.
Would you like the new number or the old number?
Just the new number based on the combining of all three panels.
Okay, so people who are not in the number 7, number 14, and number 28.
7,
Yes.
we can agree on that.
What we'll do then is seat 22, 23, and 24 in their place. The attorneys get that?
No, sir.
7, 14, and 28 are who we discussed earlier. 22, 23, and 24 are going to be seated in their place.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I'm slow. 7,
7, 14, and 28.
yes.
22, 23, and 24 are going to be seated in their places. Or at least for the 21 to be initially seated now, that would just be 22 and 23.
Got it, thank you.
Bring them in.
22 is the one with the medical appointment.
Oh, yes. That's fine. We'll bring him in and release him now at this point.
So it'll just,
So it would really be 23 and 24 then, once 22 is released.
So 23 will go in seat 7 and 24 will go in seat 14, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Moore? Come through here, and then you're gonna end up sitting right here. Walker? Triplet? Right here. Weaver? Gosling? Brown? You know what, Cheyenne wasn't out there, so I just sent Brazos. She wasn't in here when his honor said that. Brazos is who I need. Do you have Miss Gardner? You Miss Gardner? Yes. Okay, this seat's for Brazos. Miss Gardner, come this way, please.
Cheyenne.
You're gonna come up to here, and you're gonna go all the way down here. Conyers. Bell. Where's Rubino? We're off. Gardner, Conyers, Bell, Rubino should be after Bell. We are off. Hold on, hold on. Right there. Bell? Bell right there. Where's Rubino? Rubino, right here, please. Daigle after Rubino. So Rubino, then Daigle. Thank you. James. Brinkley is next. Williams. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Actually, one moment before you see anyone else. Mr. Brazos, did you still need to attend your medical appointment this afternoon, sir? Then that settles that issue. Then, in seat seat 7 will be Mr. Brazos, number 22, and seat 14 will be Bianca Brinkley.
Williams. Then King. Fry. Fisher. Strawn, Spates, and Parker. Hold up after Parker, please. Yep, all of them. Thank you.
Welcome back, prospective jurors. I believe some of you we have already visited with this morning as a part of the individual voir dire, and now the rest of the voir dire is going to be conducted here together in the courtroom. Voir dire is a French term meaning to speak the truth. When you were sworn in, either yesterday or today as prospective jurors, you were sworn in for that very purpose. First, I'm going to ask you some questions, and after I've finished, the attorneys are going to have their opportunity to ask you some questions as well. This is going to be the attorney's only opportunity to engage in direct conversation with you while the trial is happening. The purpose of this questioning is to assist the attorneys in determining if your verdict in this case would be unduly swayed or influenced by your personal experiences, any opinions that you currently hold, or any special knowledge or training that you may possess. The object of this process is to select jurors who will impartially try the issues of this case that's based on the evidence that will be presented in the courtroom without being influenced by any other factors. It is important that you be totally candid and truthful with us through this process. Please understand there will be no wrong or right answers to any of the questions that will be posed today. The correct answers are what you think and what you actually believe. The attorneys are not attempting to embarrass you in any way. If a question is asked that you feel uncomfortable answering in the open courtroom, you'll have an opportunity to answer that question during a private sidebar. Each party to this case has the right to excuse a certain number of jurors without giving me any reason. If you are excused by either party, do not feel offended or feel that your honesty or integrity is being questioned in some way. If you are not chosen for this case, it does not mean that you are not fair or impartial, or that you could never be fair or impartial, but rather it would mean that you are not suited for this particular case. It may be necessary during the jury selection and also during the trial for me to speak with the attorneys and the defendant about matters privately at the bench or with the jurors out of the courtroom. Please do not speculate about any bench conference when it takes place. The bench conferences should in no way affect your duty as a prospective juror in this matter. We have several bailiffs who will be working with us, and it is their job to enforce the court's orders, provide any security that is necessary, and also to have charge of the jury. That is, to assist you with any reasonable needs that you may have. If you have questions about your personal welfare apart from this case, you should direct those questions to the bailiffs. However, do not ask the bailiffs any questions about this case. A statement of the case has been previously provided to you before we began the individual voir dire. I am now going to read to you the material part of the indictment that has been filed against the defendant. The indictment is not evidence and is not to be considered as evidence or any proof of guilt. You must not be influenced by the fact that this indictment has been filed. It is merely a formal method by which the state makes an accusation against the defendant. Count 1. It is alleged that on the 18th day of July 2014, Catherine McBanois and Charles Adelson in Leon County did unlawfully kill a human being, Daniel Markell, by shooting with a firearm, and the killing was perpetrated from or with a premeditated design or intent to effect the death of Daniel Markell, contrary to the Florida statutes. Count 2. It is alleged that beginning in 2013 and until October 11th of 2016, Catherine McBanois and Charles Adelson in Leon County in the state of Florida did agree, conspire, combine, or confederate with each other or another person to commit first-degree murder, contrary to the Florida statutes. Count 3. It is alleged that beginning in 2013 and until July 18th of 2014, Catherine McBanois and Charles Adelson in the county of Leon and state of Florida did solicit another to commit first-degree murder, and in the course of such solicitation, commanded, encouraged, hired, or requested the person, Luis Rivera and/or Sigfredo Garcia and/or Catherine Magbanua, to engage in specific conduct which would constitute first-degree murder, which resulted in the death of Daniel Markel, contrary to the Florida statutes. I'm now going to ask you a series of questions in which I'm going to need you to respond to. For everyone in the gallery, so you understand the distinction that I'm drawing at this time, the initial jurors to be questioned this afternoon will be the 21 jurors to my immediate left. For whatever reason, if we're not able to select a jury out of this group, we will ask those of you who are sitting in the gallery right now to fill these seats. It will be very important that you pay attention to everything that is taking place, because if you are asked to fill a seat at that point, we are going to want to move along without any hesitation or delay. For the 21 jurors that are seated to my left, whenever I ask you a question, please raise your hand if you are responding in the affirmative. Has anyone previously served on a jury? Please raise your hand at this time if you have. Please leave your hands up. Ms. Walker, would you please tell us where and when you previously served on a jury?
Yes, I would. It was a federal case. And it wasn't this building, it was like a building across the street about 25 years ago.
Do you recall if it was a criminal or civil proceeding?
It was a criminal.
Do you recall the charge or the type of case?
Drug abuse.
Without telling us what the verdict was, did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes.
Were you the foreperson of the jury?
No.
All right. Mr. Weaver, could you please tell us where and when you previously served on the jury? Oh, I'm sorry. Gosline.
Duval County, 5 years.
Was it criminal or civil?
Criminal.
Do you recall the charge or type of case?
Yes, it was murder and drug.
Without telling us what the verdict was, did the jury reach a verdict in the matter?
Yes.
Were you the foreperson of the jury?
No.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, where and when did you previously serve on a jury? You can lower your hand, sir.
It would have been sometime 8 or 9 years ago, I believe, here in the County. This floor at the corner.
Was it a criminal or civil proceeding?
I never recall it.
Do you recall the charge or the type of case?
Some sort of threat.
Without telling us what the verdict was, did the jury reach a verdict? And were you the foreperson of the jury? Mr. Brazos, please tell us where and when you previously served on a jury.
About 15 years he was here.
Was it criminal or civil?
Criminal.
Do you recall the type of charge?
It was a robbery of wrecking
And without telling us the verdict, did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes.
Were you the foreperson?
Yes.
Mr. King, could you please tell us where and when you previously served on a jury?
So twice, Duval County. First time was 2016. Second time was 2017 or 2018.
Okay. And criminal or civil proceedings?
Both were criminal.
Do you recall the type of charges or the case?
The first one was sexual battery on an individual under 12. The second one was armed robbery.
Without telling us the verdict, did the jury reach a verdict each time?
Yes, sir. Both times.
Were you the foreperson of either jury?
I was the foreperson of the first jury.
All right. Ms. Strong, Could you please tell us where and when you previously served on the jury? Was it criminal or civil, if you can recall? Do you recall the type of case it was? Without telling us the verdict, did the jury reach a verdict? Were you the foreperson? Did I miss anyone who's previously served as a juror? For those of you who have previously not been called to jury duty, there is no experience requirement to serve on a jury. You do not need to know any law or procedure. All of that will be explained to you. What you will need to do is to be able to listen carefully, apply and follow the instructions that you will be given concerning the law, and also use your common sense in deciding any issues of fact if you are selected as a juror. The state of Florida, in this case, will be represented by Assistant State Attorneys Georgia Kappelman and Sarah Dugan. Mr. Rauschbaum, could you please introduce your co-counsel and your client to the prospective jurors?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon. My name is Dan Rauschbaum. With me at counsel table is Kate Myers and Joshua Dubin. And this is Charlie Adelson. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Are any of the prospective jurors related by blood or marriage to any of the attorneys? Please raise your hand. Do any of you know any of the attorneys that have just been introduced? Please raise your hand. Mr. Brown?
You probably wouldn't remember it, but son played that's how we know each other.
Right. Would your knowledge or this relationship to Ms. Kappelman cause you to give her greater or less weight to any evidence that will be presented by her? Are any of you related by blood or marriage to the defendant? Do any of you know the defendant? Ms. Kappelman, if you please could read through the names of the witnesses who may be called by the state during the trial.
Yes, Your Honor. May it please the court.
Please pay careful attention to the names that will be read by Ms. Kappelman. You may proceed.
Thank you. I've included names of people whose names may come up during the trial as well as potential witnesses in the trial. And those are as follows. Donna Adelson, Harvey Adelson, Rob Adelson, Wendy Adelson, Amy Adler, Sergeant Sherry Bennett with the Tallahassee Police Department, Dr. Shelby Blank, Officer Bill Brannon, Tallahassee Police Department, Special Agent Louis Greg Bronstein, Special Agent Justin Karsten, both of those officers are with the FBI, Dr. Anthony Clark, Sergeant Chris Corbett with the Tallahassee Police Department, Brock Dietz is with the Fire Marshal's Office, Investigator Michael Dillmore is with Tallahassee Police Department, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Sigfredo Garcia, Jim Geiger, Detective Jonathan Grossman is with, I think, Miami Police Department. He's a law enforcement agent in South Florida. Mary Hull, Craig Isom is retired from the Tallahassee Police Department. Oscar Jimenez is retired from the FBI. Erica Johnson, Special Agent Brian Kendall with the FBI. Forensic Specialist William Cornegie, I believe he's retired as well from Tallahassee Police Department. Clariza Labredo, Jeffrey Lacasse, Catherine Magbanois, Joanne Maltese is retired from the Tallahassee Police Department. Keith McElveen, Ramsey Neighbor, Investigator Jason Newland is with the State Attorney's Office. Waldo Nunez, Shadrick Nobles, Jerome Obed, he's a doctor, a dermatologist in South Florida. Danny Beth Ritchie, she is with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Luis Rivera, Jessica Rodriguez, Marcia Rodriguez. Marcia Rodriguez is with the Tallahassee Police Department, or was at the time. Carrie Rosanna is with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Special Agent Pat Sanford with the FBI. Stuart Schlazer, David Sims is retired from the Tallahassee Police Department. Robert Schwartz, June Umchinda, Yendra Velasquez Mascaro, Stephen Webster, and Sean Yao is with the Tallahassee Police Department.
Mr. Rauschbaum, are there any witnesses who may be called by the defense that are not on the list that was just read by counsel for the state?
Yes, Your Honor, there are a couple.
If you could read those names.
Kristen Adamson, Gary Cohen.
Thank you. Do any of you know any of the witnesses who have just been identified by either counsel for the state or the defense? Please raise your hands if you know any of the witnesses. Yes, sir. If you could identify which witness?
I know Dr. Shelby Blank, TMA.
All right. Let me make sure. Mr. Conyers?
Yes.
In what capacity have you known the doctor?
I am able to take that record from time to time during surgery.
Would your acquaintance with the doctor prevent you from considering her testimony impartially?
No.
Would your relationship or knowledge of the doctor cause you to give greater weight or less weight to her testimony?
No, none.
All right. I'm now going to ask each juror a series of questions. Please respond fully to these questions. This is to provide the parties with some general information from you, and the attorneys may follow up with some more specific questions when they have their opportunity to inquire. Ms. Moore, I'm going to start with you, the benefit of being number one. Please tell us your full name. What is your occupation, or what type of work are you involved with? And that's related to Department of Children and Families? Okay. What is your marital status? Do you have any children? All right. How old are they, and what are their genders? What do they do for their occupation or work? How long have you lived in Leon County? Do you have any close friends or neighbors or relatives that work in law enforcement? Have you or any of your close friends or relatives ever been charged with any criminal offenses? And to clarify, this would include also criminal traffic, similar to driving with a bad license, DUI, but not speeding or any traffic infractions. Have you or any close friends or relatives ever been a victim of a crime? Right, thank you. Ms. Walker, please tell us your full name.
My name is Catherine Francis Walker.
What is your occupation or what type of work do you do?
I am retired, and I was an insurance administrator for the state of Florida.
What is your current marital status? Do you have any children?
I do. I have 2 sons.
What are their ages and what are their occupations if they're employed?
The oldest one is unemployed, he's 42, and the youngest one is 36, and he's manager at a dollar store.
How long have you lived in Leon County?
Since 73.
Do you have any close friends or neighbors or relatives that work in law enforcement? Have you or any close friends or relatives ever been charged with a crime? Have you or any close friends or any relatives ever been a victim of a crime? Mr. Triplett, please tell us your name, sir.
My name is David Winston Triplett.
What is your occupation or what type of work are you involved with?
I work part-time, I'm semi-retired, but I work part-time doing warranty work on windows that have gotten clogged up in houses. I replace them.
What is your marital status?
I'm married.
What is your spouse's name and her occupation if she works?
Her name is Angela Renee Triplett. She is an office manager and a legal secretary for an attorney here in town.
Which attorney?
Wilbur Bruton.
Do you have any children?
Yes, 3.
And could you please give us the ages of your children and their genders, and also their occupations?
Well, my oldest, my son, is 44. I really haven't talked to him in numerous years. The last I heard, he was working in the oil industry in Texas. So we really don't have much of a relationship with the state. My daughter is 42. She's a school teacher. I live in the Daytona area. My youngest son, Daniel, is severely mentally handicapped, so we have an occupation.
How long have you lived in Leon County?
22 years.
Do you have any close friends or neighbors or relatives that are employed in law enforcement?
I'm not sure how to define close friends, but many of my friends are ex-law enforcement officers, retired law enforcement officers, who are understanding officers.
Have you, any close friends or relatives, ever been charged with a crime?
I was charged with domestic violence in 1996 by an incident with my ex-wife back then.
Have you, any close friends or relatives, ever been a victim of an offense?
My house was broke into 1999, but nothing other than that.
Thank you.
Your Honor, sorry to interrupt. Mr. Triplett mentioned that he had previous employment as a law enforcement officer, but we could just ask about that.
He did. Mr. Triplett, I believe we discussed this during the individual voir dire, but please tell us when you worked as a law enforcement officer once again and which agency?
Sure. From 1982 through 1997, I worked down in South Florida for the Florida Marine Patrol. For 9 months, there was a break in 1988 when I went to work for U.S. Customs, but I was not really happy there. I called my old boss and I went back into the Marine Patrol.
Thank you.
Mr. Weaver, please tell us your name. What is your occupation or what type of work do you do? What is your marital status? And please give us your spouse's name and her occupation. Do you have any children? Could you please give us their genders and ages and their occupations?
4-year-old daughter and a 6-month-old son.
Do you wish they had a job? How long have you lived in Leon County? Okay. Do you have any close friends or neighbors or relatives that are employed in law enforcement? Have you, any close friends or any relatives, ever been charged with a crime? Have you, any close friends or any relatives, ever been a victim of a crime? What do you play for the Yankees? I'm curious. Okay. What was your record this year? Okay. Well, what is important now as a starting pitcher? Fair enough. Mr. Gosselin, if you could please tell us your full name. What is your occupation and what's your type of work? What is your current marital status? What is your spouse's name, and could you also tell us her occupation? Do you have any children? Please tell us their ages and also their genders and also what they do professionally if they work.
2 boys, 4 and 9, professionally they're 10
How long have you lived in Leon County?
10 months.
Do you have any close friends, neighbors, or relatives that are employed in law enforcement?
Yes.
Have you, any close friends, or any relatives ever been charged with a crime?
No.
Have you, any close friends, or any relatives ever been a victim of a crime? Mr. Brown, please tell us your full name.
Stephen J. Brown.
And what is your occupation, or what type of work do you do?
I do local fundraising for the local campaigns and the
What is your current marital status? Please tell us your spouse's name and their occupation if they work.
Brady Langford Brown. She is an event planner / vice president of the foundation for National.
Do you have any children?
Twin boys are 14 years old. Been looking for long. Doesn't anybody leaves right away.
All right. How long have you lived in Leon County?
27 years.
Do you have any close friends, neighbors, or relatives that are employed in law enforcement? Have you, any close friends or relatives, ever been charged with a crime? Have you, any close friends or relatives, ever been a victim of a crime?
Victim of a home
Right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Brazos, please tell us your full name. What is your occupation or your type of work?
sales, confirmer, security, and
Are you currently married?
Yes.
Please tell us your spouse's name and their occupation.
Ellie Brazos, and she's a continuous consultant for the Department of Transportation.
Do you have any children?
Stepson,
And what is his age and occupation, if he has one?
45 years old, and he's a handyman.
How long have you lived in Leon County?
31 years.
Say that one more time.
31 years.
Do you have any friends, neighbors, or relatives that are employed in law enforcement? Do you have any close friends or relatives that have ever been charged with a crime? Or have you ever been charged with a crime?
Stepson,
And is that pending or ongoing at the moment? Have you, any close friends or relatives, ever been a victim of a crime? Thank you. Ms. Garner, please tell us your full name.
Bethany Julia Janae Gardner.
What is your occupation or type of work?
I work for the Agency for Healthcare Administration. I'm a government operations consultant.
What exactly does that mean?
It's a vague title. I just help out with our bureau within the agency.
Okay. What is your current marital status?
Single.
Do you have any children?
No.
How long have you lived in Leon County?
All of my life. 30 years.
Do you have any close friends, neighbors, or relatives that are employed in law enforcement?
No.
Have you, any close friends, relatives, or neighbors ever been charged with a crime?
No.
Have you, any close friends or relatives, ever been a victim of a crime?
There was a home burglary about a little over 2 years ago. My home.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Conyers, please tell us your full name.
Michael Eugene Conyers.
What is your occupation or type of work?
I'm a safety tech at CMA.
What is your current marital status?
Single.
Do you have any children?
No.
How long have you lived in Leon County?
Since 901.
Do you have any close friends, neighbors, or relatives that are employed in law enforcement?
No.
Have you, any close friends or any relatives ever been charged with a crime?
No.
Have you, any close friends or relatives ever been a victim of a crime?
No.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Bell, please tell us your full name. What is your occupation or type of work? What is your current marital status? Do you have any children? How many children and what are their genders and ages? Are your older children employed? How long have you lived in Leon County? Do you have any close friends or neighbors or relatives that currently work in law enforcement? Have you, any close friends or relatives, ever been charged with a crime? All right. What was the offense that they were charged with? Okay. Have you, any close friends or relatives, ever been a victim of a crime? Did you get that straightened out? It wasn't a miracle? All right, Ms. Rubino, please tell us your full name.
Hi, my name is Dr. Heather M. Rubino.
What is your occupation or type of work?
I'm the head of safety surveillance research. I'm an epidemiologist.
And what is your current marital status? Do you have any children?
No.
How long have you lived in Leon County?
2005.
Do you have any close friends, neighbors, or relatives that work in law enforcement?
No.
Have you, any close friends or any relatives, ever been charged with a crime?
My brother's retired Coast Guard.
Okay.
I work in law enforcement on the Coast Guard, but my understanding is military and
They do have, I believe, some criminal interdiction aspects in the coastal waters, but other than your brother, anyone else?
no, sir.
All right. Have you, any close friends or relatives, ever been charged with a crime?
No, sir.
Have you, any close friends or any relatives, ever been a victim of a crime?
No, sir.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Daigle, please tell us your full name.
Melissa Hagel,
What is your occupation or type of work?
elementary school teacher.
What is your marital status? I'm just going to remind all of our prospective jurors, the person in front of me is a court reporter, and this transcript can be obtained if you pay the appropriate amount of money. I would just ask, as it relates to some of these questions about spouses and loved ones, that you answer accordingly. So Ms. Daigle, married for the moment, are you going to be separating?
Well, I wasn't being serious. I have been in the process of getting a divorce for 3 years now, so yes.
All right.
I am still married as of this moment.
Do you have any children?
Yes, I have 3 children.
What are their ages and genders and their employment if they have jobs?
None of them have jobs. My oldest is 16, my daughter, and then my son is 14, and then I have another son that just turned 9.
Okay.
All is full.
How long have you lived in Leon County?
39 years.
Do you have any close friends or neighbors or relatives that work in law enforcement?
No, I'm not.
Have you, any of your close friends or relatives, ever been charged with a crime?
My husband, I'm leaving.
Okay. The attorneys may want to follow up with you concerning that response. Have you, any close friends or any relatives, ever been a victim of a crime? All right. If you're uncertain, the attorneys may follow up as to that issue as well. All right. Mr. James, please tell us your full name.
Jordan Charles James.
What is your occupation or what is your type of work?
I am a test engineer at Syntex Systems.
What exactly do you do as a test engineer?
So I'm on the team that basically works for the operating system. So I handle the OS testing and others on various systems.
Okay.
Right now I'm doing a lot of stuff with cell modem communication. I've been doing a lot of stuff with cell modem communication.
All right. What is your marital status?
Single?
Do you have any children?
No.
How long have you lived in Leon County?
3 years.
Do you have any close friends, neighbors, or relatives that are employed in law enforcement?
Yes, my dad is Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
All right. Are any others that are local to Leon County?
No.
Have you, any close friends, or any relatives ever been charged with a crime?
Yes, high school basketball team is mine.
Have you, any close friends or relatives, ever been a victim of a crime?
No.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Brinkley, please tell us your full name.
My name is Bianca Bethel Brinkley.
What is your occupation?
I work for Big Ben Hospice. I'm a certified nurse assistant.
What is your marital status?
I am married.
Could you please tell us your spouse's name and their occupation?
Yes, my husband's name is Victor Brinkley, and he is a retired Marine.
Do you have any children?
Yes, I have one daughter,
How old is she and what is her occupation?
22, and she is a car saleswoman at the Dodge dealership in Tallahassee.
How long have you lived in Leon County?
Well, I'm from Tallahassee, and I moved to Columbia, South Carolina. I lived there for 17 years, and I've been back home for 11 years now.
Do you have any close friends, neighbors, or relatives that are working in law enforcement?
No, sir.
Have you, any close friends, or any relatives ever been charged with a crime?
Yes, as a teenager, I got into a fight at the Moon, and then I got caught stealing at the Kmart on Appalachian Parkway. And I have a cousin, he's in prison now, but I don't have any involvement with him. I don't go visit or anything like
And that moon will get you every time. Have you, any close friends or relatives, ever been a victim of a crime?
Yes, I have a cousin who's in prison now, somewhere, I don't know.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Brinkley. Ms. Williams, please tell us your full name.
My name is
What is your occupation or type of work? What is your marital status? Please tell us your spouse's name and their occupation. What was her occupation prior to retiring?
She was an insurance quality control analyst.
Do you have any children? How long have you lived in Leon County?
6.5 years.
Do you have any close friends, neighbors, or relatives that work in law enforcement?
2 friends retired from law enforcement, but no one currently.
Right. Have you, any close friends, or any relatives ever been charged with a crime? Have you, any close friends, or any relatives ever been a victim of a crime?
I have 2 instances of break-ins, very petty.
Right, thank you, ma'am. Mr. King, please tell us your full name.
My name is Stephen Francis King III.
Mr. King, I must confess, when I first saw your name on the jury roster, like, this isn't the author. How often do you get mistaken for him?
Mistaken, not often. Asked about often.
Okay. What is your occupation?
I am an enterprise infrastructure architect.
And what is your current marital status?
I'm married.
Please give us your spouse's name and their occupation.
My spouse's name is Melissa Ray Warner. She is a trainer with the Agency for Disabled Persons.
Do you have any children? How long have you lived in Leon County?
4 years.
Do you have any close friends, neighbors, or relatives that are working in law enforcement? Have you, any close friends, or any relatives ever been charged with a crime? Have you, any close friends, or any relatives ever been a victim of a crime? Thank you. Is it Fry or Frey? All right, Mr. Fry, please give us your full name.
Thomas William Fry,
What is your occupation? And what is your marital status? Do you have any children? How long have you lived in Leon County?
32 years.
Do you have any close friends, neighbors, or relatives that work in law enforcement? Have you, any close friends, or any relatives ever been charged with a crime? Have you, any close friends, or any relatives ever been a victim of a crime? Thank you, sir. Mr. Fisher, please tell us your full name.
Joseph Charles Fisher.
What is your occupation?
I'm a regulatory specialist or consultant now. I'm a trainer.
What exactly does that mean?
It's the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, so I train them.
Okay. What is your marital status?
Single.
Do you have any children?
No.
Well, at least your future children will not be hunting this transcript. How long have you lived in Leon County?
18 years.
Do you have any close friends, neighbors, or relatives that work in law enforcement?
I do.
And they are local here to Leon County? All right. The attorneys may follow up with you as to that issue. Have you or any close friends or relatives ever been charged with a crime?
Never tried.
Have you or any close friends or relatives ever been a victim of a crime?
A couple burglaries here and there, but that's it.
All right. Thank you, sir. Ms. Strawn, please tell us your full name. What is your occupation or type of work? What is your marital status? Please give us your spouse's name and their occupation. Do you have any children? Right, if you please could give us their ages, genders, and their occupations if they work.
My oldest son is 34 and he's a chef. My next one is a son and he's 31 and he's a firefighter. My daughter is 24 and she's going to school full-time and working full-time for Madison. And then my youngest one is 21, it's a boy, and he is a full-time student.
I'm curious, does the chef always cook Thanksgiving, or does he say, I'm not cooking today?
You don't cook for me.
That's the benefit of knowing a chef. All right, moving on. How long have you lived in Leon County? Are any of your close friends, neighbors, or relatives working in law enforcement? Have you, any close friends, or any relatives ever been charged with a crime? Have you, any close friends or relatives ever been a victim of a crime? Thank you. Ms. Spates, please give us your full name. What is your occupation?
Medical record technician.
What is your marital status? Do you have any children? Please tell us your children's ages, their genders, and what their occupations are if they work.
4 daughters, Patrice, Federal Reserve Supervisor, Federal Reserve Bank Supervisor, Jonathan, Department of Children and Family, Tiana,
It's all right.
Tanisha, DOT, Department of Transportation / Juror. What was the last part? She's a little.
How long have you lived in Leon County? Do you have any close friends, neighbors, or relatives that work in law enforcement?
No.
Have you, any close friends or any relatives, ever been charged with a crime?
My nephew. I don't know if that's considered close.
For the purpose of this question, yes, it counts. The attorneys may follow up with you as to that answer. Have you, any close friends or relatives, ever been a victim of a crime?
No.
Thank you. Ms. Parker, please tell us your full name. What is your occupation or type of work?
Currently retired. I work in property management.
What is your marital status?
Married.
Please give us your spouse's name and their occupation.
And he's a barbershop owner and also a barber.
Do you have any children?
No.
How long have you lived in Leon County?
Since 2018.
Do you have any close friends, neighbors, or relatives that work in law enforcement?
No.
Have you, any close friends, or any relatives ever been charged with a crime?
I was charged with a DUI in 2015, and we moved here from Nashville, Tennessee in 2016.
Have you, any close friends, or any relatives ever been a victim of a crime? Thank you. In the trial, if you're selected, and also during the attorney's question, the court or something? All right.
Yeah. I don't know, Judge. Sorry.
All right. Part of the issue of turning a courtroom into a live wire. We'll move on from here. During the attorney's questioning, you may hear certain terminology such as burden of proof, presumption of innocence, and the right to remain silent. It is very important that you understand these concepts. I will attempt to explain to you each one, the burden of proof, the presumption of innocence, and the right to remain silent by reading the jury instructions that are applicable to each concept. The defendant has entered a plea of not guilty. This means you must presume or believe the defendant is innocent. The presumption stays with the defendant as to each material allegation in the indictment through each stage of the trial unless it has been overcome by the evidence to the exclusion of and beyond a reasonable doubt. To overcome the defendant's presumption of innocence, the state has the burden of proving the crime with which the defendant is charged was committed, and the defendant is the person who committed the crime. The defendant is not required to present evidence or prove anything. Whenever the words reasonable doubt are used, you must consider the following. A reasonable doubt is not a mere possible doubt, a speculative, imaginary, or forced doubt. Such a doubt must not influence you to return a verdict of not guilty if you have an abiding conviction of guilt. On the other hand, if, after carefully considering, comparing, and weighing all the evidence, there is not an abiding conviction of guilt, or if having a conviction, it is one which is not stable, but one which wavers and vacillates, then the charge is not proved beyond every reasonable doubt, and you must find the defendant not guilty because the doubt is reasonable. It is to the evidence introduced in this trial and to it alone that you are to look for that proof. A reasonable doubt as to the guilt of the defendant may arise from the evidence, conflict in the evidence, or the lack of evidence. If you have a reasonable doubt, you should find the defendant not guilty. If you have no reasonable doubt, you should find the defendant guilty. In every criminal proceeding, a defendant has the absolute right to remain silent. At no time is it the duty of a defendant to prove his or her innocence. From the exercise of a defendant's right to remain silent, a jury is not permitted to draw any inference of guilt, and the fact that a defendant may not take the witness stand cannot influence the jury in any manner whatsoever. During the qualification period, I previously gave everyone an instruction concerning not discussing this case, which would extend to your social media. Once again, I'm going